What's going on, guys? Welcome back. So we finally got a fresh Conan Exiles update. The big thing on the surface is that the new story arc has kicked off with Legacy of the Giant Kings, and this first part sends you deep under the unnamed city into the Cyclopean Halls. That alone is already a pretty strong hook, because it is not just another random tune-up to the game. It is actual new content, with a location, a character, and a reason to go exploring. Akhamet is the one guiding you into all of this, and the whole setup is basically about uncovering what happened to the Giant Kings and what is still buried under the sands. That is the kind of Conan Exiles stuff that works really well, because it gives you a reason to care about the world instead of just treating it like a survival sandbox you wander around in. And then, right alongside that story content, they brought back something a lot of players have wanted for a while, which is legendary repair. That is such a practical change. Anyone who has spent real time with endgame gear knows the annoyance of finding a weapon or armor piece you love, only to watch it lose durability and feel like you are babysitting it forever. Now that you can repair legendary weapons and armor again, those items are going to stay useful for a lot longer, and that just makes the whole late game feel better to play. It is the kind of change that does not sound dramatic at first, but once you are in a real playthrough, you feel it immediately. There are also some really nice quality of life changes mixed in here. Inventory space has been pushed up from 200 slots to 210. Which is not some wild jump, but it is enough to make life a little less cramped when you are hauling back resources, loot, and random junk you swore you were going to sort later. Save slots have also been bumped up to 10, so there is more room for different characters, backups, and all the usual chaos that happens when you start experimenting with builds. Companions and thralls now show as dying when they are down but not fully dead, and if you have health values turned on, you even get a countdown on the health bar. That is one of those things that makes combat feel clearer in the moment, because you are not left guessing whether you still have a chance to recover them or whether the fight is already over. A couple of other gameplay changes are worth calling out too. Camel Saddles got more die options, which sounds minor until you realize how much players care about their gear actually matching. Renaming companions and thralls now works on the first try, which sounds almost too basic to mention, but that kind of bug fix saves time and frustration. Crafting stations now update right away when you assign a new crafter, so if you move a better thrall into place, the station should reflect that immediately, instead of making you wonder whether the game ignored you. Chests and containers should also behave better now, opening and closing more reliably so they do not sit there acting weird after use. Even war paint on the hands is back, which is the sort of detail that cosmetic players will definitely notice. On the performance side, this update does some pretty useful work. FSR frame generation can now be used on NVIDIA cards from the 10, 20, and 30 series, which opens that option up to a much wider group of players. They also reduced the processing time for placeable items during replication, which should help server load, and they improved the stability calculations that run at startup and when you build, remove, or replace pieces. If you have ever watched a big base or a weird building setup start acting up because of stability calculations, you know why that matters. Those background improvements are not the kind of thing you show off in a trailer, but they absolutely affect how smooth the game feels when you are actually living inside it. The user interface got a healthy amount of love too. Attribute highlights now update properly with the mouse. Scrolling in the respawn menu feels better, slider values in the event log save correctly, and long ingredient names keep a more consistent size in damaged structure views. Chat font size now also adjusts the message you are typing, which is a nice little quality adjustment. Shop items show their full description on the right side now. The biography sharing setting updates its radial entry correctly, and redeeming a code now shows the item icons and animations properly. They even improved gamepad support in character creation, which is huge for anyone playing on controller, and more UI actions like quick drop can now be rebound in settings. There is also a new gamepad button for toggling crafting stations straight from the menu, which is one of those little convenience changes that ends up saving a lot of time. The bug fixes are where this patch really stacks up though. They cleared a bunch of crashes, including issues with mods adding travel chapters, sending chat immediately after leaving an avatar form, changing sliders after switching language, and opening the clan tab. They fixed companions going invisible after a dungeon revive, overload levels displaying wrong, a boss fog issue in single player, Akhamet showing up too early, and the final boss sequence itself getting cleaned up so the doors and appearance are more reliable. The Withered Scion's respawn timer was corrected too, from 4 hours down to 15 minutes, which is a massive difference. There were fixes for bad NPC spawns, missing NPCs, cave lighting blockers, broken water surfaces, exploit abuse with gates, pathfinding problems for NPCs and companions in the dungeon, and even a weird invisible barrier issue during the final boss fight. On top of that, a bunch of UI bugs, admin panel issues, coop problems, and modding issues were fixed as well. So this is one of those updates that goes way, way beyond the feature itself and really tries to tighten up the whole experience. So yeah, this update is doing a lot at once. It brings in fresh story content, gives players a reason to revisit legendary gear, smooths out some everyday friction, and patches a long list of problems that were getting in the way of normal play. It feels like a proper cleanup pass mixed with a real content drop, and that combination is usually what players want most.